Translation is the hard art that turns promises into work people actually do. Strong programs convert policies into measurable standards and into procedures that are visible in ticket queues, pipelines, or maintenance calendars. A password standard that says rotate service secrets every 90 days is only credible if procedures reference the vault workflow, the change ticket pattern, and the evidence screenshot that proves the rotation happened and the old secret was revoked. A logging standard that requires retain boundary events for 1 year is believable when the storage lifecycle rule and the quarterly access review show up in the same place as the policy reference. The PCIP lens asks you to verify this translation by sampling. Can you pick a standard, find one procedure that implements it, and pull the artifacts that prove last month's run? If yes, the program lives. If no, the policy is a speech. Training, acknowledgements, and effectiveness checks move policy from text into memory and habit. A living program does not rely on once-a-year videos that nobody recalls. It builds shorter, role-specific learning into onboarding, into quarterly refreshers, and into just-in-time prompts when people approach sensitive tasks. Acknowledgements matter because they create a record that the expectation was received. Effectiveness checks matter because they show the message stuck. Those checks can be small spot quizzes on the access review page, quick simulations of suspicious MFA prompts, or micro drills that test how a team handles a vendor visitor at the door. The assessor's eye looks for rosters, completion timelines, and a simple narrative that links training to observed behaviors changing. On the exam, stay alert to the distinction. Completion rate alone is vanity. Completion tied to fewer violations or faster remediation is effectiveness. Risk analysis, exceptions, and compensating controls are where policy meets reality without collapsing into wishful thinking. A useful exception register includes the asset or process in question, the exact control gap, the risk statement in plain language, the compensating safeguard, the owner's name, and an expiration with a reapproval date that will force a fresh look. Compensating controls should be bounded and testable. MFA on a broker might reduce exposure while a network rule is rebuilt. Daily reconciliations might detect drift until tooling is rolled out. The assessor verifies that exceptions are scarce, time-limited, and reviewed on cadence, not stacked into a second, laxer standard. The exam rewards that discipline because exceptions are often where incidents begin. What was allowed as a bridge can become a secret road if nobody returns with a closure ticket and a retest that proves the original gap is gone. Metrics give the program a heartbeat you can feel, and the trick is to pick measures that express adoption and effect, not just activity. Completion rates show whether people finish the thing. Control pass rates and mean time to remediate show whether the thing works at operational speed. A strong set might track access reviews completed on schedule, percentage of writes removed during review, patch windows met for high-severity findings, MFA enrollment coverage for privileged groups, and time from alert to containment for authentication abuse. Each metric needs a target, an owner, and a published trend line with a few words about what changed when the curve moved. As an assessor, you do not want hundreds of lights. You want a dozen that reveal whether the discipline holds. The exam's best answer emphasizes clarity and relevance over volume because noise invites complacency. Governance forums are where those numbers and risks are turned into choices, and predictability beats passion every time. A monthly control council that always reviews adoption metrics, exception registers, open remediation tasks, and policy revision proposals will produce steadier improvements than sporadic all-hands sessions after a scare. Membership should mix business leadership with control owners so trade-offs are surfaced, not hidden. And the agenda should leave room for short, evidence shows demos that keep conversation anchored in artifacts. Minutes need not be elaborate. They must show who decided what, by when, and how success will be checked. For the PCIP mindset, that predictability signals maturity. Controls are steered like operations, not preached like values. On exam scenarios, choose the answer that puts governance on a cadence with data and accountability, not a vague promise of oversight. Evidence packs transform policy claims into verifiable narratives an assessor can test without drama. For each policy, the pack should collect the artifacts that matter: the current policy and standard versions with signatures and dates, the procedures in effect, samples of tickets or reports that show recent execution, and the sign-offs that close the loop. Good packs also include observed outcomes before and after charts for a control that was tuned, a short write-up of a test that caught a miss, and the closure evidence that followed. The point is not to drown the reader. It is to put everything needed to replicate your conclusion in one place, organized by the policy's intended outcome. When a program does this, audits feel like confirmation rather than excavation. And on the PCIP exam, you should recognize evidence-ready packaging as a hallmark of a living program. Third-party alignment must be handled with the same rigor as internal work because external gaps land on your incident page just the same. Map provider responsibilities to your controls with explicit statements of what the vendor does, what you must still do, and which attestations or reports satisfy proof. A payment gateway might own processing logs, while you own endpoint hardening and facility controls. A cloud host might attest to physical security and hypervisor patching, while you attest to segmentation and identity. Collect the vendor's evidence on a cadence that matches its risk, annually for broad frameworks, quarterly for operational logs, and immediately for incidents that touch your data. And tie acceptance to policy references so reviewers see the logic. The assessor expects to find the map, the documents, and the exceptions register together. On the exam, prefer answers that show shared obligations are written, sampled, and renewed, not assumed. Revision triggers keep policies current without waiting for pain. The mature stance names events that force review, incidents with root cause lessons, audit findings with agreed remediation, significant technology shifts like new identity providers, and business changes such as mergers or new payment channels. When a trigger occurs, the owner opens a revision ticket, schedules a forum slot, and collects evidence that supports the proposed change. Metrics, incident notes, vendor updates, so the next version feels like a response, not a reaction. Version histories then tell the story of learning across time, which is exactly what an assessor looks for when judging a program's resilience. The PCIP test rewards that posture because it shows that documents are not relics. They are the way an organization teaches itself in public. A living program communicates in two registers at once: precise standards for practitioners and simple summaries for stakeholders. Summaries translate expectations into everyday language without jargon, clarifying who must do what and how success will be checked. They are short enough to paste into onboarding and into vendor work orders, and concrete enough that new managers can lead without calling security every hour for interpretation. The craft here is to preserve the policy's force while clearing away acronyms and insider terms that confuse non-specialists. Assessors do not grade prose style. They grade whether expectations are understandable by the people expected to fulfill them. On exam items, the right answer favors communication that improves adoption, because adoption is the first ingredient in effectiveness. Two practical foundations help everything above work better and faster: policy tooling and artifact hygiene. The best programs keep their library in a system that tracks versions, enforces approval workflows, and exposes a stable link for each current document that other systems can reference. They also teach teams to capture artifacts with the small details that make evidence reusable: timestamps with time zones, names of observers, system identifiers, and short captions that explain what the image or export proves. You are not grading graphic design. You are checking whether a stranger could follow the thread 6 months later and reach the same conclusion. When the library and the artifacts are tidy, reviews are short and confident. When they are messy, even strong controls feel questionable in the moment that matters. A second foundation focuses on how assessors and internal reviewers prove policy to practice quickly using a sampling method that anyone can repeat. Pick a control area, choose a risk-weighted sample size, and declare the acceptance criteria up front. What counts as compliant, what counts as a variance, and how a variance becomes a corrective action with an owner and a due date. Then run the sample in public, attach the evidence to the policies pack, and record the math that turns observations into a statement you can defend. This discipline deters selective memory and allows leaders to understand residual risk without technical deep dives. On the PCIP exam, that ability to state how you would verify adequacy, not just what you would like to see, often separates a strong answer from a guess. Bring third-party alignment, metrics, training, and exceptions back under one roof by using governance forums to review a single program health dashboard on a predictable schedule. Each tile on that dashboard should point to a policy and to its evidence pack, and each discussion should end with a clear action: approve a revision, retire an exception, adjust a metric target, or schedule a deeper review. Over time, this habit creates reflexes. People know where to bring a concern, how to propose a change, and what proof will satisfy reasonable scrutiny. The living program is not a set of PDFs. It is a cadence of small, visible improvements tied to documents that describe them. That is the habit the certification wants you to cultivate, and the habit an assessor is trained to recognize in the wild. Close by translating all of this into one move you can measure this week. Choose one weak policy, often an old access control or logging document, and draft a short, testable standard update that names thresholds, cadences, and artifacts in plain language. Put the draft through your approval workflow, schedule a small sample to validate the new rule, and attach the results to the policy's evidence pack with dates and sign-offs. Announce the change in the governance forum with one before and after metric you will track for a month. Then return with the outcome and decide whether to tighten or teach. A living security program grows through these small, verified steps, and that is exactly the kind of maturity the PCIP exam is designed to reward. Not slogans, not volume, but clear expectations that become predictable behavior and leave a trail anyone can follow. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.